Welcome back to This American Ride podcast, where we talk about issues that affect you, the average American. What's up? Welcome back to the show. Here is to being consistent, man.
Yeah, don't look now.
Go team. Go team. Coming off a great episode last week.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Definitely, if you haven't caught that, go back and check out the interview with Greg Sobocinski. He is our candidate for the congressional 3rd district here in South Jersey. And he's got a long road ahead of him. Most definitely, he's got to get through this primary on June 4th, and then he has to basically pick a Democratic chosen opponent. And I say that because they're not really having a primary here in the state of New Jersey that's worth anything. They're just going to hand the nomination to one dude. They've got a couple of people with their hats in the ring, and the party has just backed one guy.
Kind of seems like how they work lately, all across the board, huh?
Brutal.
Yes, if you're a Democrat voter, you just do what you're told.
Well, right, exactly. And if I was a Democratic voter, I would be quite pissed. At least here, our primary, we've got, a handful of people that are all in the mix for the Republicans. So,
yeah. So by the time folks are listening to this, you've already had it. So I hope you all had a fantastic Memorial Day weekend. But for us, as we record this, we are about to roll into the holiday weekend. Very excited about that.
Yep.
Looking forward to a nice weekend of some barbecue and hanging out with friends, and hopefully a motorcycle ride, and who knows what else.
And here's cheers.
Yeah, cheers. And well, it's a little late for you guys, but hopefully you spent a little time, reflecting on what the holiday actually is, Memorial Day, and those that we've that gave the ultimate price for the country. So I will definitely take a minute for that this weekend.
Yep. And if you feel the urge to help change somebody's life, we are having an event on July 13th. There'll be a link down below this, and you can donate to the charity that we're raising money for in 2024, which is Tunnel to Towers. And they do a lot of things for veterans and first responders who've given the ultimate sacrifice, as well as injured and disabled veterans and first responders, things such as making homes handicap accessible, things such as paying off mortgages for those left behind. And it's pretty impactful.
Yeah, actually an amazing cause, and super excited to be trying to raise money for them this year. And we're getting close. We are down about 50-ish days.
Scary.
Until the event. So getting excited, getting nervous, praying it all works out and there's no major issues and everybody has a great time. We raise a lot of money. But that's not what we're talking about today.
No. We are kind of talking about a little bit of a segue from some of what we talked about Greg Sobocinski last week, and that is values.
Yeah. So we're almost 2 weeks behind on this story, but it still seems to be kicking a little bit and really got a lot of people's panties in a bunch. So kind of thought we would address the Harrison Butker commencement speech that has so many on the left just in a tizzy. Freaking out at the unbelievable, horrific things that he said, the craziness that he spewed at this college.
Triggered.
Yeah, so triggered. So triggered. Just to kind of set the table, Harrison Butker is a NFL football player. I use the words football player loosely as he is a kicker. But he is a devout Catholic and has, those he has that faith and he's, very serious about it. And he was speaking at Benedictine College, Catholic Liberal Arts College in Atchison, Kansas, I believe it's called. So just to set the table, it's a Catholic guy at a Catholic university giving a commencement speech and talking about pretty much Catholic and religious type of morals and ethics. So that's to kind of set the table of where it all started.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can kind of just, however you want to break it down. I took notes on some of the different, I have notes because there's no way I can remember all these different talking points that came up. in the in the speech. But to me personally, I just don't see anything that's outrageous, but I see why certain groups of people would think it's outrageous. So I guess we can get to that at some point here. But yeah, pretty crazy.
Well, I think the important thing here is the words devout Catholic, and uh, Harrison is a devout Catholic. In every sense of the word. To the fact that there's a lot of things I feel like that are in this speech that got looked over. There's a lot of things that were misquoted
Yeah, absolutely.
in social media. They twisted words of a speech that was, the words I think were picked very carefully. They were picked very purposely. I feel like is the way to put it. And Harrison went into the fact that he he attends a traditional Latin mass.
Yeah. So
That is, and then just to talk about like devout Catholics, right?
well, yeah.
So I mean, that's
Just to say, when it comes to the Catholic part of this,
mhm.
I don't know much about Catholicism. I'm not Catholic. I wasn't raised Catholic, so I will defer to you on those types of
I
things.
know just enough to be dangerous.
I'm sure.
I mean, okay, the way Catholics, they worship one God, just like most Christians.
Right.
I think kind of where some of the separation is the way Catholics, to me at least, they don't look at other religions as denominations. They don't necessarily recognize, I would say, other denominations.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else that is outside of their traditional sect, or however you want to call it, is you know is not Catholicism in its truest form. And they believe that Catholicism is Christianity, Christianity is Catholicism, and they are lockstep. And they believe in one Father, the Holy Spirit,
Mm-hmm.
and that's their core. Um, what makes them, I feel like, different than what people think of. I feel like people don't think as Catholics as Christians a lot of times.
Yeah,
I feel like
it's
that
like
gets
there's
lost,
Christians and Catholics.
and that's not true. Catholicism is Christianity, and
Yeah.
it's Christianity at what a devout Catholic like Harrison would tell you is it's Christianity at its oldest, purest form. And they believe that the Latin Mass, which is why there are Catholic churches that are going back to this, is how God wants to be worshipped in its oldest, most ancient form. And that's why the Latin masses are starting to starting come back. I mean, people don't attend Latin masses because they for their love of Latin. You know what I mean? It's not like because they want to go hear a priest yap in Latin for 45 minutes to an hour. They do that because that is what people for centuries have done, and that is their tradition. And Catholicism is about structure, and it is about tradition. And the belief is the structure is what keeps you in line. It is what keeps you from straying. It is what keeps you, I guess, for a layman's terms, on the straight and narrow and walking in the ways of God.
Okay.
Now, it to me, it seems like Christian churches, and while I don't get me wrong, I enjoy Christian churches, I would personally prefer to go to a Christian church because I feel, I guess, I feel a little bit like people who go to Christian churches, their relationship is more their own with God, and that's kind of how I feel it should be. Where when you go to a Catholic church, I feel like the love is as much of the institution, the church, as it is with God, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's the way it's meant to be or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, again, my take.
I agree.
So,
I don't. I mean, I don't agree. From the way I was raised, I don't agree with like confession to a what do you call it?
to a priest.
To a priest.
So,
I don't believe that. I believe it said when when the veil was torn, that did away with that, and we no longer had to go through a middleman.
well, I mean, the Catholic belief is that whether a priest or a bishop or whatever have you, those individuals don't represent God. They are merely vicars for God, is the word that they choose. And which means they are hate they use the word, and I looked this up, and they use the word substitute, and I don't like the word substitute. I don't think that there is any substitute for God, but they're more of you know what I mean. So
Yeah,
I
totally.
the definition that they use of the definition of a vicar is a substitute of. So therefore, by using the word vicar, you're using the you're implying the term substitute for.
Yeah.
But that is that is kind of what it is. But again,
Yeah.
it's one of those old traditions. Like Catholics don't worship Mary. All right, a lot of people believe that people who don't understand Catholicism believe that the Catholics worship Mary. They pray to Mary, but she's not part of the worship. Just to
Why
clear
do they
that up.
pray to her?
She was the mother of Jesus. I guess I probably should have an answer for that. And that's when I said, when I know enough to be dangerous, that's where it stops. But they do pray to the Mother Mary.
So with this speech, man, like, and I mean, maybe you've seen it, maybe you've seen the things people are freaking out about. Maybe you don't know anything about it, but if you're on anywhere on social media, you'll see, basically, I mean, he triggered the left with just a few little spots in this speech, and so they're outraged. But the reality is, he really talked about it was only 20 minutes long, and he really only spent a couple minutes, if that, on the parts where the people are outraged about.
It was basically like maybe
a few. It wasn't even minutes.
It was maybe like 8 lines. If you want to total everything together, it's maybe 8 lines of the speech.
The majority of it was just about being proud to be Catholic and taking that out from the college out into the real world and staying true to those values, and not just, now that you're leaving your Catholic college and going out into your adult life, that you just forget about all that and start doing all the things that go against God and your religion. That was the majority of it from what I took. But then he just touched on these couple little spots that just feminists losing their mind, and obviously, the rainbow flag community losing their mind because of really one little backhanded comment that he made.
Well,
really, I mean, he made a comment about Pride Month, and that was really the gist of what he talked about.
It's not, I wouldn't even call it a backhanded comment. Listen,
well, I mean, it's a shot at them 100%.
I mean, no matter how you look at it, if you follow the word of God, being gay is a sin.
Right.
Whether and this is a topic, I mean, it's a topic that came up at poker night the last time we played poker. It was a topic that has come up, in the church that you attend, frequently. And
you see how easily even Christians lose sight of that based on that conversation.
Yes. Yeah.
Because the reality of it is, no matter how much you believe something, when someone you love now is involved, it's so easy to change your opinion, you sway your mindset on that, because someone you love now maybe is gay.
Right.
So yeah, we saw that firsthand. But yeah, it was just like these couple triggering moments that just set them off. But really, I mean, he started out by touching on Biden and our political leaders, and how Biden claims to be Catholic, but then he goes and he's at these things, giving speeches about being pro choice and abortion and things like that, which completely go against,
which means he's not Catholic.
Right.
You can be baptized.
Like, you can sit here and say you're a Christian, or you're Catholic, or you're religious, or you believe in God all you want. But then if every one of these difficult social topics come up and you fall on the wrong side, you're really not.
Right.
You're just not. And that's fine. But just stop saying you are.
And this is what I mean. When I say I have this whole speech here. It's he talks about the choices not being easy, being difficult.
Well, he opened up the whole speech saying that, he was going to talk about the hard things.
Yeah.
And he closed by saying, I know this wasn't full of fluff like you would expect in a speech like this.
Yeah.
So he meant to hit these points. He was not hiding from it. That was the whole point, was to discuss some of these hard topics that, in today's society, based on all the things we're being fed from mainstream media, just mainstream culture, you're made to feel guilty and wrong for thinking these Christian values.
I think the speech was as much about leadership.
That was
it was
my next talking point. Yeah,
as it was anything, because in the speech he also talks about the leadership of the Catholic Church. He talks about the Church of Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to another podcast last night, and they went into what the Church of Nice, what the word nice means. And the word nice, when it first came up in the English language, was more of an insult. It's more of an ignorant. Okay. Yeah. We wouldn't understand that today because the word is involved. Like, hey, that's nice. And it was never the word, the Latin origin of nice is not
I would have took it that way.
A positive word.
I would have thought he was talking about how so many of these pastors only talk about the happy, frou-frou stuff, like the Joel Osteens, when they just sit and talk about all the positives, and they don't want to ever tell you about the reality of, if you're not doing the right things, what's going to happen.
Yeah, that is not. Nice is a negative term derived from the Latin nescius, meaning unaware or ignorant.
Interesting.
So I don't think, when he used the word nice and the word cowardice in sentences that followed each other, I think he was very aware of the meaning that he intended for nice.
Yeah, I'm sure he was.
Especially somebody now tying this back, when you see a simple word like that in the speech, tying this back to somebody who goes into the fact that he attends a Latin Mass.
Yeah. Okay.
But back to Biden real quick. He talks about how this was the class that's graduating now, that graduated high school during COVID. May have not had an in-person graduation. Started college during COVID because it's so didn't necessarily walk into the college experience that they might have dreamt about, or that older siblings or older friends or parents have had, those first year or two in college. He talks about the bad policies and right away the poor leadership that negatively impacted this stuff, and goes right into degenerate cultural values.
Yeah.
Which is, again, abortion, IVF, surrogacy, euthanasia. I'm not as read up on the euthanasia thing. I know it's got more traction in Europe than I feel like it does here, but the surrogacy thing was kind of a shocker to me. I mean, the fact that, we're implying, obviously, that somebody else is going to carry somebody else's baby. But the fact that you're taking that a step further, and you're looking at something like, last night, Stacey and I were talking about the Handmaid's Tale, where it was we're going to force women who can have babies to carry babies for women who can't have babies.
Who's forcing people to carry babies?
No, I mean, that could be, you look at human trafficking, it's not a stretch.
Oh, okay. You're talking about bad people doing it.
Yeah, I'm talking about bad people.
The government.
No.
I mean,
they're bad people too.
Just different kind of bad people. But yeah, I mean, a lot of Christians that are really, really go by the word and stuff. They don't like anything that has to do with messing with pregnancy and birth and anything where you're playing God. They don't. I mean, Carolyn has friends, or a friend from college, I believe, who doesn't use birth control and doesn't, try not to. And she has a ton of kids because her belief is that if, God wants it to happen,
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. And I can't argue that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't argue that. I mean, I think that takes extreme faith to be willing to do that, because most of us, even most Christians, no matter how much you believe, you still all right, I don't want 10 kids. So then you either, maybe you don't do birth control because you don't believe in that. But I mean, we all know there's other ways to not get pregnant.
Right.
So you just do that. But there's people that don't they don't mess with that, the IVF or whatever, all this stuff to like when you can't get pregnant. You do these medical things. They don't believe in it. So I can't say that they're wrong, but they're also not really. I mean, government's not forcing that on anybody.
No. No.
So
it's but one of the big things he said is talking about Joe Biden and like what we just said about him, being so pro-life. He said, and these are his
Pro-life.
words. I mean, pro-choice. My fault. Pro-choice. These are his words from the speech printed out. It says he has been so vocal in support for the murder of innocent babies that I'm sure to so many people, it appears that you can be both Catholic and pro-choice. And this is where he's talking about poor leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because people see, Joe Biden doing it, you might be liberal. Well, it must be okay.
Yeah.
And at no point is it okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's all, getting into the abortion topic is a whole giant can of worms, but at no point, there's nothing about it that I'm okay with. So I don't, I'm just, again, I look at it and I don't see an issue with what he's saying because I 100% agree.
Right. So, yeah. So, and that's where he talks about the Church of Nice. People think it's a winning position, but it's really not.
But yeah, he talked about leadership both politically and both within the Catholic religion, and starting at the top with the priests and the way they run their churches. He bashed on them pretty good too.
Well, they deserve it. And it's here story time, and I'll tell you, this is my point at where I stopped attending Catholic church, I guess, is what you could say. I worked at a hospital. We had, I worked on a floor. Healthcare and cardiology was very different years ago. Young people with genetics, we didn't understand what like cholesterol good numbers were. We didn't understand a lot of that stuff. We saw a lot of young people have heart attacks and need bypass surgery. This guy was 42 years old. He was from like the Toms River area. Italian Catholic, devout Catholic family. They were all together, all there. Should have been a routine surgery. I don't know. I don't remember the specifics of whatever happened. But he did not do well, and he hung on in the ICU for a long time. Probably maybe two or 3 weeks. He was on a ventilator, and before surgery, it was routine that a priest from St. Anne's, because the way the Catholics are broken out, whoever your local church is who covers the hospitals in that area. So whether you have a Catholic who is from that parish or not, if they are in your region and they need a priest, you go. Mm-hmm. It is what you were called to do. It is what you have chosen to do or have been chosen to do. And it is what you do. So I called up Father Jay, and night before surgery, they get their last rites. So I call up Father Jay. It was like we were 3 weeks into this, and I said, hey, they're gonna discontinue life-saving capabilities on this guy. They're gonna let him go. The family would like a priest, to do a final blessing and sit with them. He's like, let me call you back. And 12 minutes go by, and here you go. You're like, it's like 10 o'clock at night, I remember, and the family is like huddled around this bed. This guy is on a ventilator, obviously, done. Mm-hmm. Calls me back. He's like, yeah, I gave him his anointment. It's good for 30 days. Wow. Good for 30 days.
Wow.
I said, I can be honest, Father. I said, that really doesn't mean anything to me. Like, we need somebody to come up and sit with the family. They were about to lose a loved one. So, knowing how the system works, I called Sacred Heart, who was like at the time, and not maybe still like the archdiocese of the region, was always like Sacred Heart.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a number to Sacred Heart. I call up Sacred Heart. I get some bishop or somebody on the phone. I was like, hey, listen, here's the deal. I got a priest. He refuses to come. Told me that the anointment's good for 30 days. I said, I didn't let the family know that yet, but like the clock is ticking. And he had a priest from another church. I don't remember where. Come down and sit with the family.
Okay.
And the fact that a priest refused to do that, I get it. I think my personal opinion is the guy was drunk because I thought he drank a lot. Just from going to the church, I thought the guy was a bit of an alcoholic. I get it. He was a priest. Might be inappropriate for me to say that or think that, but I went to enough masses that.
Right. So that's funny. I thought you were going
You know?
somewhere else with that because you said that's what made you kind of walk away.
And I just stopped going to St. Anne's after that.
St. Anne's.
Yeah, that was my thing. Like that. Well, that was our church. I mean, that was
okay. And that guy was from St. Anne's.
That guy was from St. Anne's.
I thought you meant the whole Catholicism in general.
No,
just that church.
Just that church.
Okay.
So, which is interesting because
it
is kind of beat. I mean, like my religious background is, I was obviously baptized Catholic. My grandmother was Catholic. She came from a hard line, and I mean a hard line of Irish Catholics. And to the point where one of the sticking points that she didn't want my mother marrying my father is that he was Lutheran. And that religion basically didn't exist. They were, not full Christians. And Catholics had all kinds of slang for different religions, but it's if you weren't Catholic, you basically didn't follow Christian in its purest form, and that was a thing. But yeah, it's just
Yeah. So,
but he talks about this is the type of thing he talks about, right? So he talks about bishops during COVID.
Yeah.
And that is kind of like where
he talked about leadership. So both
right.
From the church and politically.
And politically.
Really botched that is what he kind of talked about.
And how during COVID, people were dying. Families wanted last rites.
Supposedly.
Well,
just kidding.
I mean, it is what it is. Families wanted last rites.
Mm-hmm.
And bishops were like, well, we are under lockdown.
Yeah, man.
And did not go.
Yeah, that's bad. I mean, I didn't agree with any of the churches that closed the doors and went. Even my own. Like, we weren't happy with our church.
Yeah.
For following those. Because, I mean, if you go by the letter of the law and the Constitution, they don't have a right to shut you down.
No, they do not.
No matter what. So, yeah, we had a beef with our church for doing that, and any of the church that did, I don't agree with. I mean, I think they were wrong, but yeah, like doing that and denying last rites and stuff.
And this
because you were afraid of COVID. Like,
this is what he talks about.
Crazy.
This is leadership within the church, and he says something that I feel like is true not only in the church, but is true, in this country as citizens of a country, of a we're not a democracy. So many people want to call us democracy. We are a republic. Topic for another podcast. But where we choose our leadership, we vote for our leadership in a democratic process. And he says we get the leaders we deserve.
You ain't wrong.
You know who else said that? Thomas Jefferson. Not wrong.
No.
The people will get the leadership they deserve.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty clear cut.
So whether it's the church or whether it's the government, I mean, he's putting leadership in one bucket, kind of, to me. You have the president of the United States who says this but does this.
Mm-hmm.
You have, bishops and
he talked about some stuff about
clergy.
the leaders of the church being more concerned with like matching outfits with their dogs or something, and I mean that must have been something that must be an inside thing for Catholics that know about. I don't know anything about that, but it was kind of funny. And it was at some point in talking about that he quoted Taylor Swift, one of her songs.
This is what he says right here. I have it. There's not enough time today for me to list all the stories of priests and bishops misleading their flocks. That's what Father said, because sadly, many priests we are looking to for leadership are the same ones who prioritize their hobbies or even photos with their dogs and matching outfits for the parish directory.
Oh, that's not matching with their dog.
It is what he said.
But what was the quote?
know.
Because somewhere in that same area was a quote about a quote from a Taylor Swift song, which had all the Swifties up in arms because they didn't want this misogynist, religion-loving, right wing freak, quoting Taylor Swift, their god.
I'll have to find that.
But yeah, so that's where he triggered the Swifties. So he apparently quoted, but then he went on. That's when right after that, I think he went and he made a comment about having pride, I guess, in your Catholic faith. And then he said the comment about, and not the kind of pride that has a month dedicated to it. And that's
where people
that's the
nuts.
Triggering of the alphabet soup people.
He used the word specifically, not the kind of sinful pride,
right?
Which is also, again, words chosen very purposely. Before we move on from the whole COVID thing, though, he did bring up, great saints like Saint Damien and Molokai, who knew the dangers of his ministry and stayed for 11 years as a spiritual leader to the leper colonies of Hawaii. So here we are. We had lepers, right? We had beyond COVID. We had people with leprosy who they were, what's the word? Banishing, but it's not exiling to, to an island. And he was going to minister to these people, and at the time when he went there, he was not a leper. And it says his heroism today is something set apart and unique, which ideally it should not be unique at all. For a father loves his children, so a shepherd should love his spiritual children as well. And that is, I don't care what the government says. If the government wants to exile people to an island and they are your flock, then you go tend.
Mm-hmm.
That is the message.
Yeah.
And in COVID, it was turned off.
Sorry, we're on hiatus.
So for all you folks
sabbatical,
for all you folks that say government's not involved in religion, we've kind of laid it out here for you.
Yeah. Yep. So then I think after that was where he kind of went into his little spot where he addressed the women, and now that's where all hell broke loose, because how dare this man tell any woman anything? And really all he said was basically, I think the quote was, I would venture to guess that the majority of you are he said you're excited to go out into your new careers, because obviously you're graduating college and you're going to go most likely find a career, because that's what people go to college for. But he said, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. Oh my God. You know what that means? Get back in the kitchen and make me a sandwich. Apparently that's what that means if you're a feminist. Because God forbid you take any pride or purpose in being a mother, a wife, a homemaker, because that is just beneath women nowadays, apparently.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. It's the most bizarre thing to me. You would think that what he actually said was, no woman should be out in the workforce. How dare you be in the workforce? You don't belong there. Go back in the kitchen. That's what they're trying to twist this into. When all he is saying is there's nothing wrong with, despite what today's society tells you, there's nothing wrong with being proud to be a mother, a wife, a homemaker. It's one of the most important jobs you could possibly have.
And he addressed it as vocation.
Yes.
That was kind of like, people got upset when he said this, and then when he said it's a vocation, basically it was him saying, yeah, I meant to say that. I said what I said. Yeah.
And he went on there to talk about his wife and how if you asked her, she would say that her life started when she chose to take that vocation and lean into the vocation. He said, lean into the vocation of being a wife and a mother and a homemaker. And if you asked her now, even though she did back in the day have dreams of, I guess, a career, does she regret it? He said she would laugh and say, no way.
She'd say, heck no.
Or heck no. So, like, and then when he talked about his wife, he went on to talk about her and how he wouldn't be where he is today without her and her leaning into her vocation of being a wife and a mother. He got choked up. And I mean, I mean, it was as sincere as can be that, you know, he was grateful for her for doing that and being a wife and a mother.
Yeah.
And allowing him to be who he is. But apparently he's just a kicker. I love the TikToks. Did you see the TikToks?
No.
All the TikToks
I don't know why this is in my feed.
the feminates talking about how, I have 3 doctorates and I built 3 companies and I did this and I did that and you're just a kicker.
He's a kicker with 2 Super Bowl rings. Makes a lot more money than you, honey. But I digress.
But but see, that's where they are so quick to rip a man down, right? But he's more than a kicker. He plays football and he's a kicker, but he's clearly more than that, right? He's a man of faith. He's a businessman now. He's like got his own things going on, an entrepreneur. He's a father. You know, he's a lot of things, but no, you're just a kicker, honey. I have 4 doctorates. Don't tell me to go in the kitchen, which
I feel like
people think like that. Just
I feel like this is like one of those things with Catholicism is this guy would make a great preacher. He would make a great leader. He'll never be that because he's a Catholic.
Wait, say that again?
He would make a great preacher. He would make a great pastor, this guy.
Butker?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he would make like...
He probably would.
He probably would, but he never will.
Because
he's Catholic. And he's hardcore Catholic.
You're saying he would make a great not Catholic, but pastor or preacher?
I think he would make a great like pastor.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no,
because he gets it.
Because he's devout.
He gets it, but he never will. Right.
What? Yeah.
So he goes on to he also called being a husband and a father a vocation. That got lost on people, right? So he called that a vocation as well. But again, you know, selective media, we didn't pull that quote from the speech.
Well, no, again, what we always do, right? We're triggered by one little thing and we just focus on that. And that's pretty much the only thing he went up there and said. He went up, he said, get back in the kitchen, make a sandwich, mic drop, and walked away, apparently, if you listen to the crazies on social media.
So right after he did that and he talked about the husband and wife and the vocation and the duty. He said, to the gentleman here today, part of what plagues our society and this lie that has been told to you as men, has been told to you that men are not necessary in the home or in our communities. And as men, we set the tone of the culture. And when it is absent, disorder, dysfunction, and chaos sets in. The absence of men in the home is what plays a large role in violence that we see all around the nation. Other countries do not nearly have the same absentee father rates as we find here in the U.S., and a correlation can be made in drastically lower violent rates as well.
Yeah. People will try to argue, but it's the same. It's the same exact discussion that constantly goes into why is there a disproportionate number of crimes committed by Black people, and it goes right back to the same thing. No fathers in the home.
It goes right back to the family, and it's right back to the family unit.
Exactly, and it's so simple to look at, but everybody wants to dance around it. Yeah, and he went on to say,
"That's a big one."
Yeah,
you know, because
absolutely.
What's the left? What's the left's argument for violence in America? It's the Second Amendment, and we shouldn't have guns, and that's why we're so violent, because it is a huge part of their argument. And other countries don't have this violence because they don't have a Second Amendment, and they don't have gun ownership, and you're right, they don't have a divorce rate that is through the roof. With
do they?
Huh?
Other country? I don't know that that's a statistic.
They don't have as many broken families. That's a fact.
I don't know that that's a fact.
We can pull those numbers.
I mean, it's not really relevant.
It kind of is relevant though, because I mean, he's talking about violence, and the violence being a derivative of the fact that there's no father in the home. Like that piece of leadership, that piece of the puzzle is missing.
Yeah.
Right. And when you look at countries that don't have as many fatherless homes, they're not seeing the kind of violence that we're seeing. And mind you, where is a lot of the violence? I mean, I'm not gonna say all the violence, because there's violence everywhere. But you look at these cities. You look at Philadelphia. You look at
Chicago.
You're looking at LA. You're looking at New York. You know, you're looking at the areas where a lot of single moms and a working single mom can't get it done. A working single parent, or a working single father, can't get it done. You can't get it done.
No, you can't.
It's just not a thing. It's not anybody's fault. It's just you can't get it done.
Yeah.
Well,
it's somebody's fault. People aren't choosing properly and are not treating marriage as seriously as they should. But but he goes on to say, be unapologetic in your masculinity. Yep. And this is one of those topics that he's talked about actually before this. He's had interviews and sound bites about masculinity and ripping on the mainstream that's always bashing on toxic masculinity. So he went on to talk about that, but he actually lectured and scolded the men more than he did the women
for not fighting against the culture of
for being absent,
right?
Like all he really did with the women was say it's okay to want to raise a family and make that your top priority. He didn't scold anybody. He didn't tell them don't go have careers. I feel like he was harsher on the men, saying your absence is leading to all the chaos and disorder in the country. Like that's a lot harsher than what he said to the women.
Again,
it's real, it's true, but it's still harsher.
I think he was harder on the Catholic Church than he was on the gays. But
right,
again, they've taken these two pieces of the speech out. Kind of, He
went on to say for the men to do hard things and never settle for what's easy.
Yeah,
which is great advice.
Yeah,
I mean that's what the early founders and frameworkers of our country did. Hard things.
They did do hard things.
We stopped doing hard things. We do TikToks and YouTube now.
They
like seriously podcasts. Like you know what I mean? It's true. Like
not wrong. You're not wrong. It's again, it's okay. It's okay to act how you believe.
Yeah. And then I think he kind of, before he closed up, he went on to talk about how he said before, he says it all the time, iron sharpens iron, and that the closest to us should make us better, meaning make good decisions about who you have in your life. If you're supposedly a Catholic, a person of faith, and you're dating someone who doesn't believe, what are you doing? It's going against everything that you believe. Why are you doing that? If you hang out with people that are more concerned about, where are we partying this weekend, instead of like what, you're doing to become a better person and do great things, what are you doing? Like he made great points. I thought like there was so much of it was good points and inspirational that it's crazy that people are losing their minds over it.
Yeah. A reminder, the closest of us should make us better. Yep. And that's or if you're not dating someone who doesn't share your faith, how do you expect that person to help you become a saint?
Yeah.
So that's and that's a big thing. And listen, that's a Catholic belief. And I just said the story. My grandmother was not happy to see my father come along. He was a Lutheran. Yeah. Like you didn't do that.
Yeah.
And I know Catholics, man. Catholics had all kinds of derogatory terms. Like Presbyterians, man. There was more than once in my life that I hear the term Black Catholic, because it's a thing because they're not Christians. They don't follow the word like the word was meant to be followed.
Okay,
listen, man, it's people. I feel like unless you were raised, from somebody who came from an old school Catholic, you don't understand how you're incapable of understanding how they looked at other religions. And it's not favorably, because it was their belief that by having this church break off and this church break off and, the Protestants do their thing. I mean, the Protestants were never good people, right? They're Protestant. That they were watering down. I'm not saying I believe that, but they were watering down the religion. They were watering down the word of God. They were, and the Lutherans, My father was Lutheran. We went to a Lutheran church. Went to the Lutheran church over in Pemberton, St. Mark's. The Lutheran church there, when I was, I don't know, I was young. The Lutheran church went through a split, right? And I attended church during the split. All right, and the split went from traditional Lutheran to what was called Lutheran Brethren,
Right.
which I think today we all consider the same Lutheran. But here are the Lutherans, right, who weren't always fans of the Catholics because the Catholics believed how they believed against, the Lutheran religion. You're basically Protestants. And, now the Lutherans were set with the same thing. And they're like, well, what you're doing isn't Lutheran. It's not the religion. You shouldn't even call it Lutheran. You should just be Baptist at that point. Like, start a Baptist church. If that's what you want to do, you're Baptist. You're not Lutheran.
Okay.
I don't know if that rant makes sense, but it's, it's.
Yeah. I don't know.
I feel like it's not the way a lot of us look at religion today.
Well, as a non-Catholic Christian, I feel like Catholics are stuck in the Old Testament. And they just completely disregard the New Testament.
And most Catholics will tell you they're happy to be there. But it's, okay. I mean,
but I think I've heard more from what I hear, because I've never sat on a consistent basis in a Catholic church, in a non-Catholic church such as mine, I've heard more people who were Catholic coming to my church than I think you see people of regular churches, Christian, whatever Baptist, any of them going to Catholicism. So people flee
100%
a lot. So
because it's easy.
Not all of them think they're happy to be there. To me, it feels like, and this is a complete outsider from the Catholic Church.
You're talking to somebody who doesn't go to a Catholic church anymore, so I get it.
It feels like you sit there not having a clue what's going on, and then you memorize when you have to chant something, which to me is just so bizarre.
It's the structure.
And then you have to pay for a lot of stuff.
Well,
yeah, you got to pay for a lot of stuff. Like, if you really want to be a Catholic, it costs you this much. Here's how we've got it broken down.
Yeah, I don't know.
The kids got to do all these things.
I feel like I know a lot of people. Yes, the kids need to do stuff. That's the structure. And they believe, in the Catholic Church believes in structure. There is none of this, we're going to show up and sing whatever hymns make, us happy and all the rest of this stuff. That's not the Catholic Church. Catholic Church believes in structure, and a mass goes in lockstep as a mass goes all of the time. And you could almost look at your clock and
it's so routine.
And it is routine.
And I mean, most churches are like, we're human. It's human nature. Like you have a routine. Our church has a routine, but it's not like
there was never the sermon.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to me. Like,
there was never a sermon. They would get up and they would read, but they would read the Word of God.
I've only been there a few times. I just feel like nobody's paying attention at Catholic Church. They're like, they have an ear open just enough that they know when they have to say something back to the pastor.
Well, they don't even need to have the ear open. They just know.
Not the pastor, the
priest.
The priest.
They're the sheep.
And it's funny because, and then if they change something,
people get upset.
I was at a baptism, I think, and for a friend, and at a Catholic church, and I don't, so I'm just there for that. And the guy's blah, 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 and on. And every once in a while, everybody around me would say something, and I'm looking at Carolyn like, what did they just say? And then at one point they said something, and the dude stopped, and he scolded them all and said, if you remember, it's not what we say. We say, like, they had changed something to where they were supposed to be saying something else, but that's how much they were all paying attention, that they were still stuck in whatever the old chant back was.
They changed the Apostles' Creed.
I just thought it was funny,
like several times, but
he scolded them, and I was like,
"Yep." He's like,
"Yeah, paying attention."
But to your point, you said it exactly, and that's that they are just there to respond. They are the flock. You are, when you are in the parish, you are the sheep. You are the flock.
But when you leave, from the cathedral that day, what did you get? Like, what did you get in your heart and your soul out of that day? Because I feel like from the way my church is, like when the pastor speaks and he has a message, and I feel like it'll 9 times out of 10 it like hits home with a lot of people, and they leave there, they take something from that day, from that sermon, from that that pastor's sermon, and I don't feel like that's something Catholics get.
I mean, I think my grandmother always did. I mean, she was always more pleasant than when she when she left
But
church.
like something that actually pertains to you and a struggle you're dealing with in your life, something that helps you cope with those things. Like I don't feel like that you get that out of something that's basically the same thing every week.
I will tell you, I think it's funny that you say that, because something about, especially a church like St. Anne's, and anybody who's listening who's ever gone to St. Anne's will know this. When
hopefully somebody listening has gone.
When you used to get into the parking lot, I'll tell you what you used to get. You used to get what my mom used to call brotherly love, because these jokers just went to church and they will not let you out of a parking spot. They will.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it is all on bumper to bumper warfare trying to get out of there. Like, it is time to go on with our day. And I think a lot of people who are Catholic, it is what you are, it is what you do. You go there every Sunday. I mean, I think, I don't know. I mean, Catholicism to me was always,
I just feel
it was the routine of it.
If you read from the scripture without really breaking that, what it means down to a lot of people, it means nothing to most people, because most people don't even understand what you're reading.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about giving a mass in Latin too, so I mean,
that too. Like, I honestly, like, he's like Butker says, like, he likes that. Like, I don't understand how someone could like going and sitting and listening to someone speak in a language they don't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
What are you really getting out of that, other than that's traditional and you feel like, oh, it's cool because it's traditional? But
so
if you don't understand the words coming out of my mouth, like,
but I'm gonna apply this like differently in life. The Catholics were like, my grandmother was very upset when they got rid of the Latin Mass, but she had gone to St. Henry's. St. Henry's was like her church. My mother got married in St. Henry's. My uncle got married in St. Henry's. St. Henry's was like the church in Bayonne that everybody went to. So when they changed the mass from Latin to English, and it was Latin when I was a kid, and I would go to church with her. When they changed the mass from Latin to English, it was a big deal. And my grandmother would say, it doesn't seem like a big deal to people, but this is how things change. They change a little at a time, and it'll be a little more, and it'll a little more, and they will take this and it will change, something else will change. And then in 3 changes, we'll be way far away from where we were.
And I don't disagree with that.
And that is,
I'm very into tradition, and we do that here in America. We're just apparently these days anti-tradition. We just ditch any tradition.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we don't want tradition. And I do agree with that. But my question is, with the Latin Mass, when they originally started doing Latin Mass, did people speak Latin?
Yeah.
So they understood what the heck they were being told.
Yeah.
But over time, if people aren't speaking Latin and you stop teaching Latin around the world, like, who learns Latin in America? What's the one, like, is it doctors or is it lawyers that need to know Latin?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of Latin in medicine, but
so in medicine, there's but
I don't.
But
I
like,
still don't know
who
that
goes to college and takes a Latin class?
The liberals who are not going to Catholic church.
They do.
I said no. The liberals who are not going to Catholic church. I mean, that's who's going to take a Latin class.
So you're saying the liberals that don't go to church take Latin?
Ironically, the ones that are probably taking Latin.
Yeah, because liberals in liberal universities typically take classes that are meaningless.
Yeah. So I feel like in Catholic school, and I would have to ask my mother this, I feel like years ago in Catholic school, those kids were taught enough Latin to get to the Mass. Because, I mean, my grandmother, I mean, she could regurgitate it. I mean, she knew what she was saying, but I mean, it wasn't like anybody from Ireland was speaking Latin.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I don't know.
But the Irish, and here's the whole thing with the Irish and the Protestants. The Irish had a special hate for the Protestants, because Protestantism was forced upon Ireland.
Did you say Protestantism?
That was Protestantism.
Hello, Joe Biden.
Yeah, I know. There you go. Hold on, I just crapped my pants. Couldn't let that go. Was forced upon Ireland by England. So they were at a point where they were forcing that religion. I mean, let's face it. I mean, that's how our country was founded, was based upon people looking for a free place to practice a religion.
Right.
you know, which at that time were the Puritans and, you know, eventually the Quakers, right? And, you know, the Amish. I mean, all those people wound up here, you know, looking for a land to be free of being persecuted for what religion that they chose to, you know, practice. And most of the persecution of those people was by the Protestants and by the Catholics.
Right.
Ironically enough, right?
Yeah.
So you can assume that why a lot of communities didn't like the Irish and the Italians when they came here.
Right.
Was the big influx of Catholicism into a country that was, you know, at that time, not big on Catholics.
Yeah. Trying to get away from that.
It's interesting how it all kind of like folds together.
So
sorry, but the Latin Mass, I think that's his point.
And I don't have a problem with that. I just I can get why other people wouldn't like it.
That's our point with the Second Amendment, right?
Yeah. Is it?
Like at what point, like, do you not, you know, do I need a gun with a suppressor? No. But would I like to buy a suppressor if I want to buy a suppressor? Yes. Because my view of them outlawing a suppressor, outlawing how many bullets I can take, or as Biden would say, how many clips I can have in a magazine, you know.
Yeah. And you know,
they chip away.
The funny thing is, the liberals try to act like back in the day of, you know, that era of the Constitution, you know, they didn't have military weapons. Of course they did. That's where the military went and got weapons from free citizens. Like they had cannons. That's what they had to go get extras when they got low. They were going to recruit these people to bring their cannon and help.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've always had the same weapons that the governments had.
Yeah, they had competitive weapons. That's how the militia. That was the point of a militia.
Yeah,
of a well armed militia. So but this is the point. I mean, that all ties back. That's kind of, I think, to me, that's kind of what Harrison Butker is talking about here. Is, you know, by getting away from those core values of the Catholic Church, is the Catholic Church and its leadership has started to wander and be watered down and be everything that back in 1983 my grandmother said it would be. You know, as they start to give on being gay and they start to allow priests to get married and all of the talk that is on here, and they start to maybe change their stance on abortion and they do all this stuff. If you believe you are the cornerstone and the pinnacle, and that Catholicism is Christianity, Christianity is Catholicism, then you have no business running the church the way that you're running the church. And that is, to me, the biggest point of the speech.
You got the Pope over there worrying about global warming.
This guy.
So, I mean, there's a lot of problems there. There's a lot of problems in organized church in general, not to bash on Catholics. You know, every Christian denomination has their own problems. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. Because what's the common theme, right? Men, humans are the ones running these, right? They're the ones left to, you know, lead these churches. And so there's always going to be bad people pretending to not be bad.
Yeah. Which is the irony of feminists being all fired up over the fact that he said women should be in the kitchen. When here we are speaking at a university that, as a feminist, obviously you would never attend.
Right.
Right. You would have no business attending because, you know, the belief, you're not going to see women priests.
No. Feminists, man, they think all women think like them.
They don't.
But they don't realize that there are a ton of women who are very angry at the feminists for forcing them to go into the workplace. Because I know my wife would rather stay at home.
Yeah.
I don't think your wife is dying to work. Right? Yeah. And they're not the only ones, right? So there's tons of women who would love to be able to stay home, raise kids, and take care of their family, take care of their house, and not have to go freaking deal with the bull crap that's out in the world in the workforce.
Yeah.
But these feminists think that every woman just, you know, they just want to be out there just doing the same things men are, which ironically they don't do, right? Because there's so many jobs that women want nothing to do with, and they're technically the hard jobs. Am I wrong? Yeah. I don't see the women lining up to work the oil rig. You know, I don't see them lining up to dig ditches.
There are definitely more male-dominated professions.
They want to be in all the corporate crap That's all they want to be in, is all the corporate world.
Yeah, I feel like somebody who came from a female dominated profession, there are definitely more male dominated professions. Yeah, I mean, as a nurse, I mean, we were outnumbered 20-1 all day long back when I was a nurse. There were no.
But it ties right back into the thing where they complain about they make $1 less than men.
Yeah,
that's because you don't do the jobs that are as valued and pay as well.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of people that are going to say we got no place making this argument, but I feel like if you know your worth, you know your worth, and if you settle for a worth that's below your worth, then you're settling for that worth.
It's a lot of worths, and it makes me want to worthers. Original.
I mean, as a nurse, I never had that. I mean, we all made the same amount of money. But what I will say is there were. I never had a male boss as a nurse. It was never a male nurse manager. That just didn't happen. Like, you weren't going to get that job.
I've had female bosses. I've had male bosses.
You know, but I'm saying in nursing and like in medicine, you were not. If there was going to be a male manager, it was going to be in an area like a cath lab or an EP lab, a procedural area that is a very different environment than a nursing unit or a floor. You know, it was very, especially when I was a nurse. I mean, I could count on one hand the amount of male managers I knew in all the hospitals that I knew.
Yeah.
You know,
let's talk about the fallout of this speech, this commencement speech, right? Other than just nobodies feminists that are on TikTok that are outraged, or just, women who have chosen to not have kids and have a career, so they're offended by it, which, again, it doesn't pertain to you.
Yeah.
If you choose to not have a family and want to be your career driven, Harrison Butker didn't say anything about you.
No.
At all.
Not personally.
Go knock yourself out.
He did say a woman's greatest achievement is
and it is. And any woman that has a kid will say that.
I'm
and if you're, and quite honestly, I mean, I'll say it. If you're a woman that had a kid and still values your career over your child, you're a horrible mother.
You're not wrong.
Because you can value them both, but you should never value anything, any career, job, thing over your kids.
But I think the devil's advocate argument that you'll get there is, well, I want to be successful and work hard and provide for my kid. And then I think the argument from a guy like Harrison and the traditional argument will come is that you can provide more value and worth from your kid by being there for your kid.
You can want whatever you want, but some things aren't possible.
Yeah.
You can't be, some corporate CEO banging out 80 hours a week at the office and be a good, attentive mom. It's physically impossible. There's not enough hours in the day.
Not enough time in the day.
So you can want all you want. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean it's possible. And it doesn't mean, despite the fact that you think you're making the effort to be a great mom, if you're putting 80 hours in at work, there's no way you're being a great mom for a young child. It's one thing if you're doing that now at an age where your kids are teenagers and you've spent time with them and you've molded them and formed them, and now they're a little bit older and you can go back into the, whatever. Yeah. But to have little children that require that constant, energy from the mom and being there, you just can't. So it's great. You can be a feminist and say, oh, I can do it all, but no, you really can't.
Yeah.
You can't.
They can't provide that constant leadership that,
But so aside from the feminists and obviously the gay community, which had that one little quip which you're pissed about, and then I guess Catholic priests who could be mad, the people that are more close to Harrison Butker, right? So obviously
Mahomes released a little statement. I saw Mahomes' statement. I was like, whatever.
See, I don't really have a problem with Mahomes' statement.
It was neutered. It was politically correct.
Right. But basically what he says is he knows Harrison Butker's a good person.
Yeah.
He believes that he was saying his goal was to guide people the right way, regardless of whether I believe that in the things that he was saying, and basically, said that those weren't his values and his morals, but he didn't have a problem with it. He said he judges Harrison Butker by who he knows, who he sees daily in the locker room, the way he treats him, the way he treats people, and he's a great dude. So I know there were people, if you play around on the internet, you're going to see people saying like, oh, Mahomes, said this or said that, but like they're just making stuff up.
He didn't. I mean, I watched the whole Mahomes. It was one of the responses I watched because I definitely thought that was an important one. But I mean, it wasn't.
I don't because like
I don't know.
Okay, you're the quarterback, but like
you're a quarterback, but you're the one with the most media attention. I feel like
right, 100%.
So that's why I felt like it was the messaging around something like this is.
But all Mahomes managed to do was say, "I'm not really a man of faith."
That is basically what he did.
That's basically what you said because you said you agree with his right to say whatever he wants to say, but he's a good dude, but I disagree with him. So
I disagree with some of the things he believes in.
Right. So you're just not a person of faith, which is fine. So again, like it gets kind of blown up. The NFL obviously comes out with a statement anytime somebody has any sort of religious or
that I didn't see
morally, and all they really said was, those are his views. Those aren't the views of the NFL, which obviously, I mean, you support wife beaters and drug addicts and alcoholics and womanizers and whatever other horrible those are the people you protect. So obviously we all knew that wasn't like your views.
That was not a shocker.
The only horrible person you ever distanced yourself from was because there was actual video evidence of that person doing something horrible.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, we're talking about Ray Rice. So, and
that guy got the shaft because he's not the only one to ever do that.
He's not the only one to ever do that,
right?
But he's the only one.
He's the only one
in an elevator on camera,
and I don't feel sorry for him.
I don't feel a bit.
But he's like the only one that it actually cost him his career.
Yeah. It's
find somebody else that didn't get just more than a suspension and had the opportunity to come back.
Yeah, it's they did roasted that guy. And you know what? Whatever, rightfully so. I'm not on the defend Ray Rice boat. I'm more on the,
ironically his wife's still with him and they worked it out.
That's but I mean, but I'm more on the why are we so easy on these other people? And it's because these people make money. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it's a money thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
the problem is there's too many of them doing these types of things that if they took a hard stance on it, the NFL wouldn't have as many talented players.
Right. You would water down the talent. So,
right.
I mean, a thug is a thug is a thug. Enough. And there's a lot of, there's a lot of thugs in the NFL.
And then there's Taylor Swift's boyfriend.
What did he have? See, this I didn't get. What did
honestly, I didn't.
What did Trav?
He addressed it on your podcast that you like to watch. What's it called?
It's called The Heights or New Heights.
New Heights is so that's Jason Kelce and Travis Kelce, the brothers that play football or did play football in the NFL. I think he addressed it on there from what I saw. And again, like his quotes were kind of the same. It was I like him. He's a good guy. We've been teammates for 7 years. I have no problem with him. He believes what he believes. I don't believe in pretty much anything he said.
Well, there you go.
I think that's basically what he said. There was like pretty much nothing he said that I really actually agree with. Tells you all you need to know about him and takes me back, like I told you earlier, just kind of solidifies how I've always felt about him.
Yeah.
His brother, kind of the same thing. Like it was, he didn't really believe in the things he said, which I'm like, again, you're basically all you're saying by saying you don't believe in the things he said is that you're not a Christian or a Catholic or a person of faith. Like you don't, because you don't have those same morals.
Right. Or you're not intellectual enough to get into the theology.
And he made some comment about, people like that. I just say, they're effing idiots and I move on.
Yeah.
So nothing crazy. Like there's all these rumors and I don't know them to be factual at all. There's these rumors were going around on social media that Taylor Swift was quoted as saying that, if they don't get rid of Harrison Butker, Travis will not be playing there next year, which I'm like,
you know what?
There's no way that's real. If there is,
well,
what a biatch he is to let her say something like that about his career. Holy crap.
I believe she would say something like that. But again, I feel like Taylor's circle is so tight woven. A lot of stuff doesn't get out of that circle. So I kind of think that that's bullshit.
I do too. I don't believe it was said.
But because I feel like somehow Taylor Swift has a group of people that she surrounded her with that they keep the circle pretty tight. You don't see a lot of like real stuff leak out of there.
I wouldn't know, George, because I don't follow her or her circle. So you're telling me a lot today.
Well, I mean, the Travis.
Are you on the Swiftie?
No,
like, how do you know
But
this?
the Travis, in hindsight, the Travis Taylor thing was going on for a lot longer than anybody really knew about.
don't care.
Not that I give a shit. But
I never liked her, and now I really truly hate her because she's involved herself in something that I like, and she has no business there. So
my point is, most celebrities don't have that circle. I feel like most celebrities, like, shit just flies out to get that moment.
Most
I feel
celebrities don't have like a cult following like she does
Yeah,
that would like probably sacrifice themselves on an altar for her. No, it's weird. It's creepy weird.
It's ironic.
It's creepy weird, the following that she has, and the craziness, the money these people will spend to go see her over and over and over again, the debt they must be in to be a Taylor Swift fan.
My biggest fear is that she will involve herself in politics. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not really. No, I don't really worry about it. I don't think she's like you can't just involve yourself in politics if you're not intelligent and have no knowledge of how politics work. Just to say because a couple other celebrities did it.
Other celebrities have done it.
Okay. Were they unintelligent people?
I can't judge one way or another because I didn't follow their career that closely. I mean,
you could hate him or love him. I mean, clearly based on the world he built, Donald Trump is not an idiot.
No, neither was Ronnie Reagan.
Neither was Ronald Reagan. Just because he was an actor, he
got Jesse the Body,
and he actually got into politics and worked his way up as a governor and whatnot. Didn't just jump in kind of like Trump did. Same with Ventura.
Ventura.
He's weird, but he's not an idiot.
You got Arnold.
I don't think Arnold's an idiot. I think he's super weird and has some super weird opinions, but again, he was a governor.
I feel like less powerful celebrities have made the jump and done it. And I don't want to go down this Taylor Swift rabbit hole because we're talking about something that is worthwhile, and I don't think she is. But
true that. So another person who kind of is catching heat, and that is your boy Andy Reid.
Wow.
Because he basically came out and said that he didn't think that Butker was speaking ill of women at all. And then, the women came out, and USA Today had an article about it, and they basically said that he was clueless about misogyny and he should know better.
He should know better.
He should know better, apparently. And all he did was pretty much say he didn't really think that.
Well, I think if nothing else, I think Harrison Butker's words probably hit a place with Andy Reid that, that people can't relate to. I mean, Andy Reid was an absent father, lost a son to substance abuse. As a good of a leader as he was in the locker room, he sacrificed that leadership to be a leader at home.
Yeah, I think a lot of coaches
clearly, right? I mean, a lot of coaches do that. Yeah. So when you have a guy,
because they rely on a good wife to handle the home scene
again, but one person can't do it, right?
Wasn't he a Mormon?
That's what I don't know.
I thought he was I thought he went to like Utah or somewhere. He went
to BYU. Yeah, I mean, just because you go to BYU, does that mean you're Mormon, or does that mean you're Mormon for 4 years?
It's weird to not.
I don't disagree with you, but
it's so bizarre. Why would you go to any university with the hundreds of them available?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you pick one whose core founding beliefs you don't believe in?
Well, yeah, you don't believe in. I don't know. I mean, do I think that everybody who was sitting at this college in front of
I thought if you went to BYU, you had to do one of those.
I don't know. I
you have to do one of those things. They have to go. They have to go serve for like a year.
Oh,
like
they have to go on a mission.
They have to go on a mission for like a year.
Yeah, that is part of their school.
Who would do that if you don't believe in the Mormon religion?
Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah,
that's weird. Anyway, then there's Michelle Beadle of ESPN. So she said that Butker hid hateful thoughts and feelings and bigotry behind religion. How do you get that out of that?
No, she's a twatsicle.
How do you get anything bigoted out of that? What he said.
Yeah. Religion is religion, and especially again, we talked about this, especially the Catholic religion. Men have their place in a religion. Women have their place in a religion. Women are not going to be priests. They're not going to be bishops. They're going to be nuns. they're, it is a religion of roles, and it is his religion. He's not hiding behind it to, or hiding any other message that's in it. If anything, it was probably the most, when I heard the speech, I was like, holy cow, this guy is more devout Catholic than most people I know.
Yeah.
And that's,
I think if you learn nothing from this whole
think he
thing,
was hiding behind anything.
you learn how the party or the people of inclusion and open-mindedness and all that bull crap are just anything but any of that.
Yeah.
Because if you have an opinion other than theirs, forget about it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's, well, I mean, again, I guess, that can be said of, if you're a Catholic and or you're saying you're Catholic and you have an opinion about anything other than what you should or shouldn't believe as a Catholic, then you know what I mean? Then you're not. You know what I mean? I mean, there's not a lot of
that's a religion, not a political party.
True.
Right. And if all you do on a daily basis is spew about how your side is open, you have to be open-minded to all the different viewpoints.
Well, I mean, come on,
and all
dude.
the different this and bull, and then someone else. And and I didn't touch on was the Kansas City local government worker who has now been relieved of duty for doxing him because went onto the Kansas City, whatever Kansas City government X account is, and basically tweeted, I don't even know how you say it anymore, X'd, that just a reminder, Harrison Butker lives at, and put his address out there.
Oh,
yes. So I'm sure, I mean, if I was Butker, I'd be suing the crap out of Kansas City, but yeah, and then they took it down, and then the next one was like, "Oh, that last tweet was an error. We've removed it." Like, no, it wasn't an error. You had a worker for you who is a flaming liberal and was pissed about what he said and put his information out there.
Because that's
and doxing is that's illegal. That's a crime.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
they try to do the same thing to Supreme Court justices too, man.
Yeah, I don't agree.
They're the party of open-mindedness and inclusion.
They're not. They're not. I don't even have to have an argument about that. If you think and diversity and inclusion is on our list, by the way.
Ooh. Foreshadowing.
You think this got a little? That'll get
foreshadowing.
That'll get that one. I'm gonna cross some lines in that one. I guarantee it.
And yeah, I mean we're almost an hour and 20 in, so we have had a couple of emails about suggestions. So if you've emailed and I haven't replied or whatever, we did get your email, did get your suggestion. So stay tuned if it does come up as a topic. But we would still continue to appreciate any suggestions for topic ideas. Obviously, we're talking about things that we find interesting and important to us, but we also don't want to bore the crap out of our listeners. So if there are things that, change of pace topics, cool topics,
you want to see
interesting topics, funny topics,
suggestion somebody gave us. So I could use a funny topic right about now.
Yeah, I mean, if you need something more lighthearted and you have an idea,
I feel like shoot, man. 2024 ramps up, man, and we get into this like there is nothing, there's nothing lighthearted about the future of this country right now.
No, we have 6 months to the election, and it's only going to get more.
And in my opinion,
intense and stressful.
In my opinion, we do not know who the Democratic candidate is going to be.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
In my opinion.
I know that's a possibility, but I don't see them making that move. I feel like they're so confident in their ability to cheat. And I don't think they realize how much different it's going to be this time around with the numbers.
Nope. I feel like what they're doing right now in the 3rd Congressional District is exactly what they feel they have the right to do to these people. And
I was talking about the presidential,
but I mean, but something on this local level. I mean, that's kind of where it breeds from, right? So
yeah, but Jersey's way more bold about their doing whatever
about their liberalism, right? Yeah, I mean, but it's still it's the party. The party is the party is the party.
I mean, you could do that in Jersey because you got it hands down.
I mean, they're gonna put whatever candidate they want in place. They did it with Andy Kim. right? No
Yeah,
competition.
no, I get that.
They ran Andy Kim, so now they're going to take Andy Kim, who is a resident of the 3rd Congressional District, and they're going to run him up North Jersey to be the senator from North Jersey.
I can't even think of,
You know, so they do whatever they want, and people allow it.
I get that. I just can't even think of a candidate that I would be scared of that they would throw in last minute.
I can.
Oh,
Michael Obama.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I really don't.
We'll see.
I really don't.
We'll see. Well, if you
really don't. And the funny thing is, right, again, the party of inclusion, and they love everyone. There's a lot of old white Democrat voters that are not going to vote for a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you saw the last one who thought she was going to break the glass ceiling didn't, because they don't show up because they're not going to vote for a woman.
Yeah.
And then the party of KKK racism and anti-Semitism is going to vote for a black woman. Don't see it happening, brother.
I hope not.
I don't see it happening. And there was also, the fact is, yeah, sure, there's a lot of ignorant people that still worship, minorities that worship at the altar of Obama, but there's also a lot of them who realize that he did nothing for them, and if having the opportunity today to vote for him again, would not.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, especially the Latin American voting population.
I thought she's already kind of said she wasn't interested anyway.
Yeah. Well, again, I just
I really think they want Obama to continue being the president, so they really want Biden to win again. That's how he continues to be the president.
I just I don't trust them. But if you took nothing away from this, know that Harrison was right in the fact that he said we get the leaders we deserve, and whether that is in church and parish, or whether it is for the government or the local government or the federal government, I don't disagree with the statement. It's not his words; it's Thomas Jefferson words.
That's true, and but the biggest thing I take from it, I mean, that being huge and that being a great point, and totally factual. I think so many of our problems in society today do stem from the breakdown of the family.
Yeah.
So 100% agree that there's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to be a stay-at-home mom. There's nothing wrong with working and being a mom, but prioritizing the work over your kids and letting devices with screens raise your kids instead of you doing yourself are a huge problem. And choosing the person you choose to spend your life with and raise kids with is also something people need to take a little more serious, because dad's being gone is a huge problem as well.
Yeah.
So basically it all stems from the family. And when we churn out little butt heads because little screwed up kids that are anxiety riddled and stressed and want to chop off their body parts because they weren't raised properly at home, this is where we end up, in this weird, crazy, chaotic world that we're in.
You're not wrong.
So,
all right. Well,
yeah,
we're gonna wrap this one up. Let us know what you think. You can now send us a text message to the podcast. Bert doesn't know this yet, but I just
if I get a text message from any of you weirdos,
it's gonna go to the buzz. It's gonna go to our hosting platform and to the episode. So it will not come directly to our phone.
It's a text message.
Yeah, but
so there's like a number.
Basically, yeah. There's a link. There's a link in the description you can buy that you can just not buy. You can click that says send a message. So if you have feedback, you can just click that send a message button, and you can send a message to This American Ride, or you can leave us a comment on the YouTube channel, which we do have.
And we have an X account now.
And as of today, we have an X account, or maybe yesterday. I don't know when I started it, but we do. We are This American Pod. At This American Pod was the best I could do on X. But when you find that, you'll see that it's This American Ride podcast. And if for some reason, because we're new and we're small, you don't see it there, you're not getting it, you can go to the podcast site or right to whatever podcast episode you are, and there should be a link to our X, which is ironically enough still a little Twitter symbol, but it's a link to our X account there. And yeah, we're posting stuff up there. We're posting episodes, posting shorts. We're sharing stuff from people that we are aligned with, and
if you're listening on if you're listening to audio and you have not yet gone over to YouTube and subscribed over there, please help us out. Go subscribe to that YouTube account, This American Ride, because we really need to get that moving a little bit.
And if you've never seen these two chunky butts, then you can see us sitting here in a chair in my office in front of the wall of bourbon,
drinking some bourbons. You got to restock that wall, bro.
I know. We had that conversation today.
Gotta go to the store.
So
listen, we're gonna go and we are gonna enjoy a Memorial Day weekend. It's gonna be a great weekend. It's gonna actually knock on some wood here. It's gonna be a beautiful weekend here in South Jersey. Hopefully you guys had a great one, since you're hearing this after the fact. And here's to a tad bit of consistency, and wish us the best in keeping that up.
Hell yeah.
All right.
We'll catch you in the next one.
Later.